Hey everybody, it's A Dog's Life with Angela Ardolino, and I'm so excited to have my guest on today who is joining us from South Africa, which that alone is the coolest. But what she's doing at her facility as a vet is what attracted me to her, because her whole philosophy is that she wants to empower pet parents to know that there are these natural things that we can do for our pets to help them, especially when they get injured or as they get older or get a disease. And I know from experience, and I know everybody who listens to me knows, that how many times I've gone to my vet over the years for issues with my dogs, and the only thing that I get offered is a prescription medication to stop the pain or stop the issue. And then it doesn't go further than that. I don't get to know why it occurred, how it occurred, and what can I do as a pet owner to actually help my pet. So when I meet people like this or see people like this, I'm like, let's get on the show and talk about this. So I want to welcome you, Tanya Grantham. Thank you so much, Dr. Tanya Grantham. Thank you so much for joining us today from South Africa. You're doing some incredible things with acupuncture and hydrotherapy. Of course, I want to talk about some of your biggest success stories, but I think it's so interesting how people don't understand that our pets go through the same types of things we go through as we age. And when we all of a sudden start having hip problems or back problems, we don't get put down, you know?
No.
If suddenly someone has to go into a wheelchair, becomes paralyzed, we don't put the person down. So I think it's really, and we know there's a whole bunch of people out there who don't feel this way, but I also own a boarding and grooming business and have a rescue farm. So what I get and I see is the people who just can't handle their senior or geriatric dog anymore because it's got so many issues and problems, and they're spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on all these prescription medications that aren't helping and just making things worse, and they give up. And they either give the dog away to a rescue or they put it down. So being able to talk to someone like you, who I know shares some of the most wonderful experiences that I do, which is, I treat them with cannabis medicine, mostly full spectrum CBD, and watch dogs come back to life purely by getting rid of the pain. And when you get rid of the pain and the inflammation, the communication between the brain and the spinal and the nervous system all starts communicating, and then adding physical therapy, hydrotherapy, acupuncture, you will watch your dog come back alive. Am I right?
You're absolutely right.
Yes.
So thank you. That was a wonderful introduction.
Oh, thank you. I was a little long-winded, but thank you.
And I'm thrilled to be on your show. Thank you very much for the invitation.
You betcha.
Let's start with geriatrics, because I have many special interests, but certainly those dogs have so many areas, often multiple areas of joint problems, multiple arthritic painful areas, and the first thing that happens is they start to change the way they move, and they get a compensatory muscular pattern, which then also starts to spasm and also becomes sore. So then not only do we have the joint issue, we also then have the soft tissue or the muscular issue, and eventually we do end up with a dog that really just doesn't want to move.
Actually, let's hold on
and
a
the
second.
sad thing is,
there's a little bit of
as you say, is that
folks, I had to jump in there because Dr. Grantham, we're starting to hear some of your words not being missed. I'm not sure what the stream. It just could be the connection we're just dealing with at the moment. If there's anything you have up at all, any email clients, browsers, please go ahead and try to close those up just so we can make sure we can keep bandwidth.
Okay.
All right. I'll give that a go. It is a Friday afternoon here, which means that we often have a problem with our bandwidth.
Oh, no.
I mean, it's been good so far, but I just started hearing it just now. So since you have that, I would love to get you back to the answer you were just giving.
Yeah, from the beginning.
I can tell you where it was, so I don't have to get you all the way to there. Give me 1 second, I'll let you know. Okay, there's what it was. muscular pattern, which also starts to spasm. Not only do you have the joint issue, let's start from there.
Okay, and does this sound a little bit better?
Yes, it's much better.
Okay, all right. So
take a couple seconds and then begin. Thank you so much.
So not only do we have the joint issue, but then we have the secondary muscular issue, and then we end up with a dog that doesn't want to move at all. And that's where most people feel completely powerless. And so what I want to say to you is, if you find someone who is in the business like myself, then you don't have to feel that powerless, because there is help. And the first thing we have to do is manage the pain. And I know that a lot of clients and a lot of pet parents do not want to use anti-inflammatories, and they don't want to use the prescription drugs. Sometimes we need to use those to start to get the dog to be mobile.
Right.
As I'm on, It's a Dog's Life and Cannabis Radio, in South Africa, cannabis products are not legal for sale. They are available for your own home use. And from what I have read, and the number of courses I've done, and the research I've read, and the animals that I see that are on a cannabis product, and I fully support a full extract product as opposed to CBD only.
Thank you.
I think those dogs actually do incredibly well. And what that means is, once we start to manage the pain, we are then able to do some of the manual therapies to release the musculature and the soft tissue. And once we can do that, we can actually start with physical therapy. And for the old dogs that have got lots and lots of joint pain and joint issues, nothing beats hydrotherapy, because we can buoy them, and they can move in the water, and they don't have those concussive forces on their joints all the time. And I've seen...
The dog wants to move. The dog wants to move. So when you get rid of that weight and they get to start moving, it is the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. I have a lake, so that's where I do my hydrotherapy.
Yeah.
And watching them go from not moving the back legs to one, and then actually moving it. And, one of our 15-year-old labs here, she literally will come outside, stand on the beach, and ask for me to take her in and do this with her now. Because people don't understand, if they feel pain, they're just going to lay and they're not going to do anything. And then their muscles start degenerating and the pain just gets worse and the blockages get worse. So it's so important, movement, and getting them up and moving and doing these types of things. What are like some of your most severe cases that you've seen where, nobody thought this dog could be brought back, and with these wonderful natural modalities, you got them walking again? Feeling better?
Wow. I think the dog that, I've got so many, I say to the people that work with me, we're so fortunate because we actually see miracles every day.
Yeah, so do I.
And what happens is we tend to become a little bit blasé.
I know. I always forget, like, I'll rush to help or save the animal. And I give them the CBD, and then I forget that I didn't take the picture or the video of what they look like right then, so that because I have to, I have to prove everything that I do or say, because it is a miracle. It is a miracle. I just had a chicken that we rescued that I thought she was dead, dying, where, someone had young chickens. They got to a certain age, threw them all in the same coop. Of course, there were 3 hens basically raping her, the other chickens picking on her. Her one leg was completely backwards. When I went to pick her up, she literally screamed. I gave her a full dose, 37 milligrams of CBD, full spectrum, of course. And within, I'd say 30 seconds, I could manipulate, touch her leg, turn it back the right direction. I could feel and she didn't move.
Yeah.
She did not feel that pain. I didn't know if a one-legged chicken could survive. So I was like, I don't know if I should put her down, or let me see what she does the next day. Within 3 days, she is eating, drinking. I could see her coming back to life. She's now out on the farm, hopping around on one leg. I can actually have watched her do her own physical therapy on herself, where she's not putting weight on it, but I've watched her start moving her leg, like in a scratching position, like she's trying to do her own physical therapy. I love it. Yeah. I love it. And she probably would have just curled up and died if she hadn't been rescued. But now it's like you give them this little hope and they start really thriving and feeling better and wanting to live. And I'm sure that's something you see on a regular basis.
Yeah, absolutely true. I mean, our animal companions want to live.
Absolutely.
And they definitely want to move. Yeah.
Right. So hydrotherapy, I know you're a big believer in acupuncture, that's another something that you practice. How often, like, so let's say someone has, you know, what we experience a lot right now is dogs with, of course, degenerative diseases, you know, where they stop using their back end, start dragging their back end, or, you know, completely go paralyzed. What are some of the things that you offer that would help dogs like that? Dogs with degenerative diseases, which I think is what we see most often, is suddenly the dog's not going up the steps, or they start, you know, curling in their back end, or they're not running around anymore. When we start seeing that, and it's usually when they start hitting senior age, would you agree? I mean, I have 2-year-old Frenchies on cannabis who have lost use of their back legs. So I know it's also a breed issue nowadays, but for the most part, is it when they start becoming older?
Yeah, so I think you need to separate. The Frenchies breed issue is usually a disc issue. Yeah. And when the disc herniates or prolapses, it puts pressure, compresses the spine, and therefore the nerve impulses don't move, right, which is more of an injury as opposed to the older dogs where we've got degeneration.
Oh, I love how you explain that.
They are different. And so when we're looking at the older dogs with something like arthritis, it is a degenerative disease, and we do get a decrease in range of motion of the joint. So it doesn't move, it doesn't flex, it doesn't bend and straighten as well as it used to. And because it's painful, they don't use it as much as they did before. And so the muscle, we lose muscle. Then the joint has less support. And so we spiral down into a very negative picture. And eventually the dogs don't move at all. What we aim to do is reverse that spiral. And definitely we'll be using acupuncture because it's fantastic for pain. It's also fantastic for disc disease. And the moment we're able to start to get that dog more mobile, not only are we doing specific exercises in water, but my aim is also to empower the pet parent. So if there is an exercise or there is an option for them to be performing at home, then I will be advising that. And something that I think is completely underutilized, which everybody can do, is to walk your dog slowly on a leash. Okay, so a lot of dogs, a lot of us, we go to the beach and the dogs run around and that's great. But when we're talking about therapy and we want them to actually engage those legs, each in a walk, each of those 4 limbs is used individually. So it's hard for the dog to cheat. The moment we get speed, then the momentum carries the dog forward, and then the leg that is the most painful just doesn't get used. Right. Whereas if we slow them down and we make them walk, and we make them walk on some uneven surfaces, we're asking them to constantly adjust their posture and stimulate the tiny little muscles all over their body to say, oh, okay, this is how I need to move. And at a walk, we obviously have less concussive forces than at a run.
What a wonderful tip. I love that
because starting point.
No, that makes so much sense. I do it with my dog that needs it, or my 2 dogs that need it, but everyone else runs around like crazy because I'm on 3 acres. So they run around, swim, dig, everything. But you're right. My 2 with issues, I actually took them on a walk because you're right. I watched her. My Doberman, I'm pretty sure, has osteosarcoma in her right leg. And she will run and that leg will never touch the ground, never do anything. So it's amazing. And it started probably the beginning of the month where she's just started favoring the leg and she runs around crazy. So I'm like, okay, she hurt something. Let's see if I can figure out what it is. And I couldn't see where it popped up. And now it's popped up out of her, on her, I forgot what this is called, her arm. And now I can see already the degeneration of her muscles in her shoulder. She does get acupuncture, and I mean, she gets chiropractic and massage, and now we'll get acupuncture also. But even just doing massage, I can already tell how everything is off. She's totally crooked by looking at her from the top because she's overcompensating for not using that leg. So all of that starts building up, and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And I understand, oh my God, I got to do something about it. Have you had any experience with dogs with osteosarcoma and being able to work with them?
I have. Most of the dogs that I see that have been diagnosed with osteosarcoma, most of those clients will opt for an amputation. Because what we are taught is that's the quickest way to stop the spread. And obviously it is a very painful disease. And so we teach those dogs again to adjust to having only 3 limbs. And I think one of my biggest success stories, because you asked me earlier, we had a client with the Bouvier, and she had big dog arthritis of the carpus of the wrist and of the elbows, and a little bit of trouble with her knees. And we'd been treating her for a couple of years on and off, a lot of hydro, kept her going. She was 11. She got diagnosed with a osteosarcoma on the left front leg. She picked it up really early. She opted for amputation, but the arthritis in the opposite leg was, so because everything had then shifted to that side, it was a really, really big problem. And we kept that dog going and mobile for nearly 18 months, which is quite rare after an osteosarcoma. Often those dogs will succumb within sort of 9 months. We also, we worked with an orthotist, so we built a custom-made brace to support the wrist, and we continue to have her in the water.
So to support the good leg?
Yes. Yes. Because that was the remaining leg, and obviously it's now taking way, way more weights than it would have. And she was a big girl. She was 41 kilograms, which I think is probably about 90 pounds. So a big dog, and continued in the pool, continued with all the soft tissue therapy. She was on CBD.
I was going to say, how did she manage the pain?
Yeah. And in fact,
nobody can tell me that THC doesn't get rid of the pain. Full spectrum gets rid of the pain. So I have her on my full spectrum product, which is an 1100 milligram full spectrum product. And I've started giving her more THC because I know THC kills cancer and CBD stops the spread. So I'm hoping that everything that I've researched is, amputation compared to cannabis are pretty much the equal partners that I'm going to get. 2 years will be, breaking a record, 18 months. So that's what I'm, striving for. We have a vet that is our chief vet. So of course he's overseeing all of it with me, but keeping her active, happy, and pain-free is my number one goal. And then if I can figure something out to prolong her life and make it better, of course I'm going to share that. And I'm going to do everything that you do at your place here, along with a very heavy dose of cannabis, because I already know, I've seen it. I've seen it in people and I've seen it in humans, that she's not going to feel the pain if I get it right. And she doesn't. I watch her.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Hopefully I'll be talking to you from 2 years from now and she'll still be around. But I feel like that this is something so that I can help other people. I have, 10 dogs here, and most of them are geriatric or seniors or have issues. So, if 9 out of 10 dogs get a cancer, I'm going to have cancer on my farm. If 9 out of 10 dogs suffer from a degenerative disease, then I'm going to have degenerative diseases on my farm. So it's kind of, I feel like an opportunity for me to go, let's see how I can help this popular disease that so many dogs suffer from with cannabis, with hydrotherapy, acupuncture, massage, chiropractic, all of these things help so much. So that's why I was so excited to have you on today and talk about those things. We just had was he a Pyrenees? I can't remember, another dog, very old dog, who was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, and of course was only given however long. And their goal was, just like mine, to keep her happy and healthy and pain-free for as long as possible. Yeah. So even when we're not looking for a cure, we just don't want them to be in pain anymore. We want them to be able to live their life. And that's what I think that you guys do so much, is by helping dogs live their life and be happy, and educate pet parents at the same time. It's beautiful.
We do our best.
Yes, I know. So cancer, degenerative diseases, what else are some of the most popular things that you see coming in?
Certainly the spinal dogs are a very, very large portion of the patients that we see. And a lot of younger dogs with hip dysplasia. I find those dogs, it's kind of like a pet topic of mine. I'm trying to convince my colleagues that we need to diagnose it earlier, because I believe that if we can get them active and we can influence the soft tissue, we can influence that joint positively, as opposed to waiting for it to become a total degenerative, malformed joint. Lots of cruciate issues.
What is that?
It's a ligament in the knee that stabilizes the one bone in relation to the other, lies in the middle. And
is that different than a fluxating patella or a luxating patella? Is that the same thing or different?
No, they are different. So if we've got the two bones and my finger is where the patella is, a luxating patella is it moves out of the groove. Mm-hmm. But the cruciate lies inside, and it's supposed to hold this bone in relation to the other. And if it gets damaged, then we have an unstable knee, and it's quite painful. And of course, the go-to is let's fix it surgically. But I'm seeing many dogs that now are coming in for what we would term conservative therapy, and we're having good results.
We're talking about dogs with issues, especially with their backs and their spines, and how surprised I was that I was getting calls from mostly Frenchies and pugs, which is why a Frenchie is on my logo, is because you see him back there, because that's what my peppermint spray is in the way. That's what I saw the most is, these young little dogs coming in. What the heck? They can't breathe because their snouts have been smushed in, which I don't know if you know about this, but there's actually a nonprofit organization that has started to try to help that breed bring their snouts back out so that they can breathe. Fantastic. I just had a boxer here who had a nose job because it was so smushed in that it can't breathe. We also have to remember that they want them smaller and cuter, and that's what's happening, is that they're not breeding them for the most healthy dog that you could have. They're breeding them to make them more squish face, more compact, more stockier, all the things that these people think are so cute and awesome about the breed. But what you're getting is a breed that's going to be filled with issues and problems, and it starts at 2 years old. So a Frenchie's on my logo because of the allergies, because of the degenerative disease at age 2, or they stop using one leg or start dragging their bottom. And it's amazing how it's starting so early. So you know that it's just going to get worse. But yes, being proactive is so much better than being reactive. If you do have a pug or a Frenchie, you're probably going to have issues. So learn hydrotherapy. Find an acupuncturist, find a chiropractic, use CBD on your pet because it will help keep that inflammation down. What are some of the things? I mean, you're in a whole nother country. What do you see? Here in the United States, everybody wants that smush face Frenchie. Is that happening, in your country?
Exactly the same. And, our legislation around breeding is very poor. It's not a primary concern for the lawmakers. And so we are seeing lots of indiscriminate breeding. And that's bringing in a lot of the genetic conditions. And interesting, you mentioned Frenchies. I work for Pug Rescue South Africa. They're literally a couple of miles up the road from where I am. And the pugs just keep on pouring in, because the moment they develop the problems, it's an eye problem, it's a nose problem, it's a leg problem, it's a back problem, it's a skin problem, nobody wants them anymore. So I'm just going to give them to Pug Rescue. So I think this is a worldwide issue,
It is.
to be honest. And last year at Crufts, I think, the big show in Britain, there was a legislation was changed that in the next 2 years, the dogs, the Pekinese and the pugs and the Frenchies, must have a snout that is now a certain percentage longer than what is currently the norm. Yes, and if they don't comply, then they don't gain access into the breed, into the competition.
Awesome.
So Britain is already starting to make some changes, which I think is fantastic.
That is fantastic. And it's nice to know that, the people who deal with that are the ones that are making the changes and saying this needs to change. Here in America, a dog or a cat is a piece of property. So you can pretty much do whatever you want. So it's pretty awful. The same thing happens, is that people get overwhelmed. They can't handle it anymore. I just had a woman in the other day who bought a $4,000 Shih Tzu, and she's like, it pees and poops everywhere, and it's like biting my ankles, and this is not what I signed up for. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So imagine those that get the cute little puppy that now has all these issues and can't walk, and vet bills, and it's awful combined with all of that. So if someone, of course, yeah, go ahead.
No, it just, with regards to these breeds, I would really like to say that I'm completely pro an exercise program and a maintenance program from a very, very young age. And if I can get this in here, I just would really love the people that have dogs that are healthy. And yes, we get healthy Frenchies and we get healthy pugs, to bring them to a physiotherapist or a rehabilitation veterinarian, or whoever, that we can put them on a program which strengthens the musculature and maintains the musculature and gets them to continue to move properly like a dog should. And sometimes that needs to be taught.
Right.
Yep.
It gives them a chance to fight it. The other thing I would realize is that I would put a Frenchie in the water and he couldn't even swim. They go like this.
Yeah.
So, going to a place or hydrotherapy, or what do you have, the tank, the
underwater treadmill.
Yeah, a treadmill that makes them walk or whatever is awesome, because they can't even float or keep their heads up because their bodies are so compact and weird. Yeah. So also boxers are hard to get into water and get them to swim. So going to someone like you is the best way to not only learn, watch, and see what you can do at home. I know that there's exercises. I remember learning that making your dog walk backwards was a good exercise, getting them to do something different. I've seen, putting them on the ball and whether it's, they're on, so those types of things, all those are good exercises basically to help them keep their muscles strong and active.
Definitely. And to teach them to engage all of the muscles. So we want a body that's in balance. We don't want a dog that necessarily always walks on its front, uses its front legs. They do naturally use their front legs more than their rear, but we want them to be able to be more in balance, and at the same time, core stability. So we always talk about people and our core. No, it needs to be strong. Dogs are not any different. We really should be looking at exercises so that ball activates the core, because they have to balance. So then we have less strain that goes down to the legs. So I like to teach people basic exercises, and we can build. There's no limits. So if we start early, we can build and build and build and build. It's not restricted to agility dogs and working dogs. It can happen right now in your own backyard, and you can find people who can teach you to do that, like I do. I would love to have more healthy dogs that we teach in that way. Yeah,
I love the being proactive. And you talked about bringing the animal to balance, which is the number one thing that see a full spectrum product and cannabis does is bring the body to homeostasis. So those of you that are listening, whether you have a young dog or an old dog that's suffering from anything, imagine giving them a full spectrum product that's going to relieve any pain and inflammation throughout their body, and then doing these amazing exercises that helps them. And it's going to help them their whole life, just like us having to exercise and stretch and do the things we need to do to not feel pain. So if someone wants to do this, can they go to your site? Can they get a consultation with you? If not, I mean, I still would love them to see everything that you do because it's awesome. So share your information. And if they can't talk with you or get a consultation, how do they find a good person, you know, here where they live?
Okay, great questions. Yes, we have, with the whole of the COVID-19 and lockdown, we've definitely looked at online products. So we are working on fitness products, and we're working on a series of videos that would say, oh, so now your dog has hip dysplasia, what next?
Awesome.
So now your dog has disc disease, what next? So definitely those are going to be available in the next few weeks.
Awesome. If you need someone to come on and go, and CBD will help, I'll be happy to see that person for
you. So you can reach me on my website, www.ahah.co.za. I have also started doing online consultations out of necessity because we were in lockdown.
Yep.
And then, you know, physical rehabilitation in the United States of America for dogs and cats is enormous. And I think there is an association, it's AARV, the American Association of Rehabilitation Veterinarians.
Awesome.
I think Google it. You may well find on there references to vets that actually practice rehab, where you can make consultations. I know that the veterinary techs, the VTechs, the veterinary technologists, technicians, also a lot of them are involved in physical rehabilitation.
And can someone be a physical rehabilitator without being a vet?
You can be one, provided, so you need to have another qualification. So either a veterinarian or a physiotherapy qualification, a human one, or a veterinary technician. We call them veterinary nurses. Mm-hmm. And then you have an opportunity to go to either the Canine Rehabilitation Institute in Florida or to the University of Tennessee, as I did. And then you can gain access to their courses, which will teach you, basically you then become a certified canine rehabilitation practitioner or therapist.
So this is something that your regular vet or your conventional vet may not offer or know anything about, just like they may not know anything about cannabis because it's not something that they're necessarily taught. Well, cannabis they're not taught about at all, or the endocannabinoid system. Is this something that they're taught in regular vet school, or is this something you have to go out after vet school and learn all about?
Yeah, I went out after vet school and learned about it. It's a fairly new branch of the profession, but growing very, very rapidly. Yep. So I can't comment on vet school in the States. Certainly in South Africa, our vet school doesn't teach rehabilitation, and it is something that we need to get post-grad.
So realize your vet may know nothing about this, just like they may know nothing about cannabis or diet and nutrition. So finding a vet that does understand this, and or if you're going to a holistic vet, I can guarantee you they're probably going to know somebody that they can recommend you to. Thank you so much for joining us today. I enjoyed talking to you so much, and I hope to do it again. And if I'm ever in South Africa, I'm coming to visit you.
Please do. And it was a great pleasure. Thank you. I had lots of fun.
Thank you. Take care.